Welcome to Release Your Inner Power and Boost Your Week with Ignited Decisions podcast. I'm Shauna B, a life and mindset coach, here to help busy women like you find time, happiness, and ways to fill themselves up in your everyday life. Each week, we dive into real-life challenges, from being a mom to career changes to taking time for yourself, recharging, and personal growth, so you can take action and create this part of your life right now that you truly love. Ready to make this week better than the last? Let's get started. Welcome back to Release Your Inner Power podcast. I'm excited for this guest that we have today. Her name is Heather. Me and Heather have met through the podcasting world and learned a little bit about each other. And so I'm excited to share her story. Hi, Heather. Welcome to the show.
Hi, thanks so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Tell the listeners a little bit about you, a little introduction of who Heather is.
Sure. So my name is Heather Reed. I am a serial entrepreneur. I am also a mom, a bonus mom. I have dogs, so I think that makes me a fur mom or something like that. I'm also a reader, runner, mental health advocate, a military spouse, you name it. I probably am that. I have been in the entrepreneurial world for about 5 years now. Really what started it was my insurance career. And I've been in insurance for 8 years. So that's how I started making my money. And that's actually what funded a lot of these other businesses that have spawned out of it.
I love that. I love that. I know that we've had very good conversations. And so getting into it, sharing some kind of a story or something that you have overcome in your life, like a journey that you have had in your life to get you through all of this and where you are right now. I know that each of us has kind of like our own unique story and our own path that we've had to overcome. And I would love for you to share what that story is.
Sure. So I am probably like most entrepreneurs, most business owners. We have lots and lots and lots of stories of failure and triumph and resiliency and falling down and getting back up and all the things. And so I think probably the one that I share that is most impactful is actually how I got started on my entrepreneurial journey. So, excuse me. I came from a, pretty good family. Both my parents are still married. I will be 39 in September, and my parents have been married, I think 40 or 41 years. Sorry, Mom. Sorry, Dad. But I came from a really good family. My dad was in the military, so I was raised in a pretty strict household. I got really good grades, graduated with a 4.0, and at some point in my high school career, I thought that maybe I wanted to explore being a business owner, going to school for business management. And then my life took a turn, I guess. I ended up getting married right out of high school. I flunked out my freshman year in college because I never had to study. And when I got to college, I did. So I didn't know how. And so I went from a 4.0 GPA, 12th in my class, to failing out of college. And I got married, became a military spouse. I moved from South Carolina to Hawaii. And unfortunately, I was under this false misconception that when you get married and you become a military spouse, that your life just magically gets better and all your bills are taken care of and you're rich. For those of you that are young, that are out there, that are military spouses, it's a lie. It's a trap. Don't do it. If you're doing it for the money, it's a lie. It's a trap. Don't do it. But I ended up getting married and I was in my 20s, found out I was pregnant. Shortly after we got married, he was deployed when I found out I was pregnant. And so I flew home for the summer, spent the summer with my family, came back. And the long story of that chapter or the short story of that long chapter in life was that we ended up being together for 8 years. Or married for 8 years. We were separated for 5 of them. And I found out within the first 2 years that we were married that he was having an affair. Not only was he having an affair, he also had another baby. My daughter knows this now, but she didn't then. And so my daughter has a sister that's 10 months younger than her, somewhere out there in the universe. I don't know where she is. I don't even know her name. And so, fast forwarding a little bit, I moved back in with my parents, single mom, had a daughter. Met another guy, and I ended up getting pregnant the first time anything ever happened, which is probably a totally different story all on its own. But um, I'll spare everybody the dramatics there. Unfortunately, it did not work out. Um, he's a heroin addict, and after the fourth relapse in 4 years, I couldn't do it anymore. So, two kids, single mom, two different dads. And honestly, at that point, I just was in a really low place in my life, or what at that moment seemed like a really low place in my life. I would find out about a year later that that definitely was not the pit of lowness. It gets worse. And so I ended up, diving into the online dating world and um, doing things probably I shouldn't have been doing. They were very reckless things, younger in my older, but I feel like maybe what I should have done in my younger days, I don't know. Anyways, lost my mind, started doing irresponsible things. And 10 months after I met this guy online, we were married and I was living 2.5 hours away from my parents. And we moved closer to his family. He was a mama's boy. And as soon as we got married, like this switch like flipped. And it was the most insane thing I think I've ever experienced, as far as like human behavior goes. And he was a narcissist. He is a narcissist, I assume still. I don't know. But just all the narcissistic characteristics, everything was my fault. Nothing was ever good enough. The dinner was never, right. The clothes were never folded correctly. And I was alienated slowly at the beginning by all my friends, from all my friends. And I ended up in this really lonely place. Um, I was home every single day by myself. And I ended up getting a part-time job for the short amount of time that it lasted. And the part-time job that I had was actually teaching at one of the local gyms. It was for kids and families. And um, I worked there, I think, for a couple of months. But anyways, if I did not call as soon as I got to the parking lot, or if he called me during the workday and I did not answer, he drove all the way to my job and then sat outside and watched me like a creep. And that lasted about, I guess maybe we were married for a total of 10 months. And so 9 months of it lasted. And then I started getting really suspicious and never been through anything like that in a relationship before. I do have a tendency to dive into relationships where I feel like I can save people. Um, I tell people now I'm a recovering people pleaser. But I always meet people and I think that when they have problems, that I'm the one who can fix them. Boy, is that delusional. But I just started getting really suspicious of like, why is he always like deflecting on me? Why do I feel like shit all the time? I feel terrible about the person I am. I feel terrible about the things I do. Nothing I do is ever good enough. This cannot be real life. Um, and so I started asking questions, and I don't even remember how it happened, but found out he too was having an affair. He had been having an affair our entire marriage. Surprise, right? And so it all started to make sense. Unfortunately, I was already really stuck in that mindset of I'm not good enough. Nobody's ever going to want me. I'm a single mom, two kids, two different dads, although both relationships were not one night stands or anything of the sort, which even if they were, like, who can judge me for that, right? I have to answer for those things. But I was stuck in this vicious cycle of I'm not good enough. I'm never going to be good enough. Nobody's ever going to want me. I'm never going to be anything. I I haven't ever found a career I could stick with. I don't have never found a consistent relationship that I didn't do 150% of the work and got zero in return. And So we separated in April, and then he begged me to go to counseling. So I showed up to counseling for 2 months by myself, paid for all of it out of pocket, and he never one time showed up. So that summer, I sent my kids to my parents' house, and I wasn't even sure what I was doing at that point. I literally was living in this everyday shitty cycle of a shitty life. And all I did was drink every single day. I was drinking a case of beer. I won't tell you what kind because everyone will judge me, but I was drinking shitty beer every single day, taking off early from my job. And I just was going nowhere. I had what I felt like was no purpose in my life. I felt like I was nothing. Um, and then in August of 2019, um, I attempted to take my own life. So I had just decided that my kids were better off without this worthless human being wasting space in the same environment that they were. And I honestly, I just felt like, even in my relationships, that was a direct reflection of how I parented. And so if I wasn't good enough for these relationships, I wasn't good enough to parent these two human beings. And everybody says that, for those that have attempted suicide, that have actually lived to tell about it, they all say that they have their own encounters, they have their own experiences. And mine came in the form of myself. Probably one of the most divine experiences I've ever had, but definitely one of the weirdest. And the fact that I don't remember anything else from that night, I remember earlier in the day, and there's this huge gap. And then I remember checking myself into a psych ward and putting myself on psych hold. And the voice to myself said, if you're not going to take care of these kids, who's going to do it? And it was almost at that moment that I don't even know what it was. I honestly, to this day, I still sit in silence sometimes trying to figure out what the hell even happened. And instantly I woke up and, everything came back up. So I tried to use a combination of pills and a bunch of alcohol, to drown out all the pain that I ever felt. And when I woke up, checked myself in. After I got out, I went to therapy, for a couple of months, and on one medication, on to the next, on to the next, on to the next. And unfortunately, I spent from September until December just on medications and just feeling like, honestly, I was more suicidal then than I was before I was ever medicated. And I realized that I don't know, like, how long can I deal with this? How long can I live like this? This is literally worse than when I was drinking every day, which sounds so awful to say, but medication has just never been my thing. And I felt worse on it than I did without it. And in December, I happened to be cleaning out my closet, very metaphorical, but very literal, cleaning out my closet, getting rid of all the shit from my marriage, and attempting to, reset my whole life and figure out what the heck I was going to do. And I found a pair of old running shoes I hadn't used for 10 years. And I picked them up and I started running, and I got up to running like 10 miles a day. And in April, I ran myself right off my medication. I just went to the therapist and I was like, listen, I'm not doing this anymore. I'm running. This has to work. Like, it can't fail. It has to work. And so in April, I ran myself off my medication. And unfortunately, in March, the pandemic hit. And so I was a single parent again, living in a 1,200 square foot apartment, but trying to homeschool two kids and work for corporate America. It wasn't working. And my parents migrated to Colorado in January, right before the pandemic. So my mom called me in May and she's like, look, what are you going to do if these kids don't go back to school at the beginning of the school year? And I was like, do I really have to? Like,
Right.
do I really have to? And so in May, we decided to move out to Colorado, and June 15th, we arrived here. Um, and honestly, everything between that point and the point I'm at right now, I've had mental health struggles, absolutely. And as a matter of fact, I probably went through another pretty significant downward spiral last summer um, because of a previous employer that was very abusive. It was a very toxic environment, and I felt myself spiraling back out of control into that same place. And in between the 5 years that I've been here, 5 years in June, um, honestly, I can say that my life has changed um, significantly. And I live a different life than I did before. I don't drink anymore. And it was a personal choice. I just woke up one day and was like, when I drink, I feel like shit. I'm not doing it anymore. And it was so empowering, to be honest with you, to have the ability and have the mindset to know that you can control this thing. I don't have to wake up and drink every day. I don't have to wake up and do drugs. I don't have to wake up and take prescription pills in order to fix whatever this is that I feel inside. And I've been back in therapy for a year consistently now. I did EMDR, and now I'm in CBT. But honestly, I can say that in the last 5 years, I have found my purpose in life. And that purpose is that I live to tell my story for a reason. I don't know what it is yet. But I did. I live to tell my story for a reason. And I, created a personal platform that's what we talk about. Stop lying to people. Stop lying to people, because life is not rainbows and unicorns shooting out of people's asses all the time. It sucks sometimes, and it's negative, and life throws you curveballs, and it's not always good energy. But I think that when you have other people in your circle to lean on, it makes a world of difference. And the only way you attract those people is by being upfront and honest, not only with other people, but being upfront and honest and transparent with yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. That there's so much goodness here. First of all, I want to say thank you for sharing your journey, because it's intense and it's a lot. And you've had tornado after tornado after tornado come through your life. So I mean, I don't even have the words to say. Like, I am thankful that you are here and having this conversation with me,
Thank
and
you.
just having those growth experiences. And you're right, how hard life is and how shitty things can be, and how there's stuff out here that we are really working through. Like, we are
Yes.
really working through the shit. And key statement here is being honest with yourself. That is a whole nother thing. I mean, for you your resiliency is insane. Like, to go through something and you find out the information, and then you're like taking action, right? Like, when you first found out, and you like with your first marriage, and then you found out about that, and then you leaving and getting a divorce, and you having a kiddo at a very young age, and having like the bandwidth to even navigate that at a younger age is very different. Like you said, like now, right? I mean, when you said at one point, when you're like, I was doing some really irresponsible things. Well, yeah,
Oh, for sure.
you had jumped into responsible younger. And so I feel like there's just part of us as a human being. When you jump into responsibility too, we want to be irresponsible every once in a while. And I feel like that's a healthy thing to do. But when you get shoved into responsibility and you have like all this responsibility and you don't ever really get to be irresponsible, it comes out sometime.
Oh, yeah,
Comes out
100%.
sometime. And it could be when you're, 30, 40 or whatever. It can be there because you're not letting down and doing the things, because you have, like sometimes you have life. You have life you have to tend to. And you're like on and doing, fixing and getting up. Okay, now I'm going to move in with my parents. I'm going to get my life together. I'm going to do this. And then you're like, okay, you feel to a point where you're going to get your life together and you start again. So I guess my question to you is, with these tornadoes and storms that you went through, was there something that pulled you through the first two situations that you might not have realized then that you were doing that was helping you through it, that now, like, hindsight looking back, you're like, oh, I did do these things that helped me through that?
Yeah. So, probably very similar to a lot of parents who become parents when they're very young. My daughter, 100%. And the reason why I say that, she's 16 now. But I've heard this a couple of times. I think we actually had a conversation about this, but you know, our kids don't realize how significant their presence is in our lives. And they will never understand that until they're older. But my daughter has saved my life more times than I can count. And she will never know that until she's older. She will never understand the magnitude of anything like that. But to be honest with you, in every chapter of the shitty portion of the middle of my life, it always was that at the end of the day, you know, before the suicidal ideations, it was always that my daughter needed somebody to take care of her, and her father wasn't involved in her life. So my parents weren't going to do it because I was never raised in a household like that. You have responsibilities, you take care of those responsibilities. And I think for a really long time, to be honest with you, looking back on it and reprocessing, but also being in therapy to process those things, I think that I think I had anxiety and depression for a really long time. And I chose to bury those things because neither of my parents were ever diagnosed with that. And so in my house and in the family that I grew up in, that those just weren't things that you sought help for. They were, my dad was military, and it just was don't ask, don't tell. You know what I mean? Like a lot of secrecy and a lot of not dealing with our emotions and not addressing our feelings, and then also talking to someone who has zero vested interest in what the outcome of the situation is. And so I think I spent a really long time suppressing those mental health issues, and unfortunately they exploded. And I think that they could have been avoided. I think going to counseling earlier on in my life, I think it also would have redirected my decisions in the relationships that I involved myself in. But hindsight's 2020, right? And looking back on it, would I go back and change it? The suicide attempt for sure, like that sucked. But at the end of the day, again, I don't think things happen on accident. I think that everything that happens to us is a result of the decisions that we make. I made some really poor decisions, but I think being on that reckless journey in life led me to where I am now. I'm in the healthiest marriage, the healthiest relationship I've ever been in. And the thing that sticks out to me the most is when my husband first met me and I shared all of these things with him, he told me, he said, I don't need you in my life. I want you in my life. And to me, that was like, what? Like, what? You don't need me to fix shit for you? Like, what is going on right now?
Yeah.
And so I'm in the healthiest marriage I've ever been in, healthiest relationship I've ever been in. And my bonus son now is, he has had some speech delays and some IEP, addressed issues. But for me, I think the most important part of all of this is that because I have the background here and I know what it feels like to be an outsider in your own body. I
Yeah.
know what it feels like. I get to advocate for him. I don't have to. I get to do this. And I understand from a personal experience what that's like. And to me, that I think that that's probably for a kid, that's irreplaceable. Hands down, irreplaceable.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. I love that you say my bonus son. I love that too. that like makes my heart warm that that's the, you know what I mean? Like that's the space that you're holding for him and how you honor him in that way. And how you're saying that you get to, that's such a powerful statement also. Because a lot of times we can get stuck in the thing that we're doing and I have to do this, I have to do that. And it comes back to another really good point that you make that our results are of our choices and what we're choosing to do or in our decisions in our life. And like reframing it to the point of like, I made this decision and I get to, you know, advocate for him and know how this feels and be there and all of that versus, you know, I have to is a very powerful thing. I love that you said that. And that goes with anything, not just with your kiddos, you know, like when you were saying, because we did talk about that before about how our kids save us more than they realize and they won't understand it until they're adults. But just having them as a reminder, you know, with them being here, it's easier for us as moms to go in the sense of we're raising these humans, we're taking care of these humans, and it's easy for us to see that like I'm taking care of them, what I want them to do this, what I want this in their life for them, and asking that question and then being like, what am I doing?
Right.
What am I doing? Because if it's not okay for them, why the hell is that
Mm,
okay for
yeah,
me? You
exactly.
know? And then, but then you're like, but I'm doing these things and they're watching me.
Right.
Then you're like, okay, I got to check my shit here. Like I have to, you know, flip it up and change some things because you want it to be different from them because they're definitely going to see you overhearing you. Like I
Yeah.
think the hearing you part is like the bonus, but the seeing you walk the walk is like guiding them, which in turn still saves you because
Yes.
you're changing yourself for them, but it's for you. So it's like,
Yes.
help me help you without just with them just being here.
I think it's one of those things that's like you know, again, the magnitude of the impact that it has, it's like, that statement, I know that you know that I know that you know that you know that I know. And at the end of it, you're like, what? But
Yeah.
but it is. I mean, and still, even now, I have experienced some significant growth in my businesses in the last 6 months and decided last year, the end of last year, October, November, that I was going to get a mentor and invest the money in a mentor. And when I did that for myself, thankfully, ironically, the mentor happened to be someone that I have looked up to in the insurance industry for years. And he, came to me and was like, look, I see the potential in you. You have a wonderful story. You should be sharing this with other people. I want to mentor you. And he has pushed me outside of my comfort zones, but I have even noticed recently that since I've been in therapy, I went through probably what was my longest depression phase since then. And it's the winter depression here in Colorado. It's a real thing. But in all of that, it was like the universe, just these little things like, listen to this. You're
Mm-hmm.
not listening to me. I said, listen, you're not listening to me. And it's screaming at you. And my daughter came home one day and she was like, Mom, I took all your business cards to school with me, to high school. What the hell are they going to do with those things? Right. But at the end of the day, it was like, hold on a second. I'm over here depressed. My daughter is out marketing my
Yeah.
business for me in places that I mean, hypothetically speaking, I guess they could go home and give my business cards to their parents.
Yeah.
But again, I know that I know, or whatever the hell it
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, it's like, shit. Okay, I'm done with this. Like, we have to keep moving forward.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know. Another thing that you brought up was spiraling. It's so funny and interesting how during life and the growth process of these tornadoes that we go through, and then we come out on the other side, and then we're stronger. It's almost like we shed the old thing and kind of like level ourselves up, and then we have something else that we're going to, conquer or tackle or what have you in whatever form that may be. And then the spiral is like before like the storm or after the storm. So it's like this thing that goes with it that you have to move with to come out on the other side. So usually like us, we're just like, "Ugh, this really shitty thing again. Why is this thing happening to me? Why, like we go into that mode. And then of course afterwards when you look back you're kind of like, well, I was a different person for that. Like I was stronger for that, that time when I went through something. I was different and I handled it differently. It's very interesting to me how sometimes we can get stuck in the why is this happening to me and not looking at look at how I handled that way better than I did this other situation,
Yeah.
you know,
Well, and
and concentrating on our strengths.
I think also too, something that you said, and my mind, because of the shift in my mindset, has also shifted the way that I view these things. And so it's not, these things are happening to me. These things are happening for me. And I think probably the biggest lesson I've learned, and I keep coming back to it and I harp to other people about, is stop trying to shrink yourself to fit into rooms that were never intended for you in the first place.
I love that.
Listen, you were never intended to be in that room, metaphorically. I
Right.
was never intended to be in that first marriage that I was in. I was never intended to be in that second marriage that I was in. I was never intended to, be in that relationship with my son's father. I was never intended to be in those rooms. And I shrank myself down to be something I wasn't. And that honestly, that has been the game changer for me. Stop shrinking yourself to fit into rooms that were never intended for you in the first place.
I freaking love that so much. That's so awesome because I mean, that's so true. That's so true to have that mindset shift to look at it that way. Like me, I'm just like, my life is like, do, 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 do. Like just with you saying that, I'm like flipping through all of the things. And I was like, now this makes so much sense. Right? You're like, oh,
Yes.
there's a lot more aha moments of why. And you can almost see yourself like, I did do that there. And I did
Yes.
do that there. And that's probably why I went through the thing
Oh yeah. 100%.
that I
And
went.
now, honestly, like revisiting those things, sometimes you just have to laugh
Yeah.
because it's like we're either laughing or we're crying.
Yeah.
And listen, I'm not trying to go back there again, but
Yeah.
we laugh at the stupidity and then we just keep on moving. And again, that statement can be applied to everything in your life. And I think it's worthwhile to mention that before you attempt to enter in these rooms, phases in life, relationships, friendships, business partnerships, businesses, whatever it is, think about that. Is this a space that I am going to have to shrink myself to fit into? Is this meant for me? If it's not, that's okay. There is not one door that closes without 20 more opening. Go and find a damn window and jump out of it. Like, if
Yeah.
there's not a table, make your own table and pull up the damn chairs for somebody else. Like, somebody is waiting for you to be the leader in life. And in order to be a leader for other people, you have to be a leader for yourself. And in doing that, you got to be honest with yourself and say, listen, I suck at this. How can I get better? Like, what can I do differently instead of sulking in that thing? Because in a week, you're still going to be in that same place. And
Yeah.
it sucks. It gets worse. The longer you live there,
Hmm.
the worse it gets.
That's true. It's so true. What would be your biggest, what would be your biggest advice to somebody then that, or tool for somebody that may be like sliding into that whole storm or what have you, and they are feeling like that for themselves and they're hearing what you're saying, but they're like, they're kind of like the whole internal battle that we have. What would be a tool or some advice that you would give them to start working out of that?
Sure. So I would say, as far as tools are concerned, find your tribe and don't just say yes to a friendship because it's a friendship. Not every opportunity is a good opportunity, and that's okay. I will tell you that over my 30s have been my roughest years as far as like friendships and relationships have been. And I feel like this is the biggest decade where I have yearned for those friendships. I have yearned for those people to lean on. I'll tell you, I found my tribe online,
Mhm.
crazy enough. You will find some of the biggest support systems in Facebook groups and on chats and, on TikTok and whatever else, but find your tribe and do it intentionally. If it's not a good fit, it's not a good fit. That's okay. You don't have to be friends with everybody, but you also don't have to be rude to them. You can speak to them, but if it's not meant to be, then don't force it. And I think the biggest piece of advice that I could give to anyone that I think has become a survival tool in my life is take care of your mental health and don't let the stigma shut out an opportunity to open a door to what could be one of the biggest successes in your life. Mental health is a stigma for that has been out there forever, that don't talk about your mental health. Don't tell people you have depression. Don't tell people you're bipolar. Don't tell people that you struggle. And as a business owner, I have felt that more than I have as an individual, because the stigma in the business world is don't share your personal life. Don't talk about your mental health because it makes you look like a business owner, a bad business owner, bad business practices, and people don't trust you. Bullshit. Bullshit. And I say that because there are plenty of business owners out there that now I get messages in my inbox all the time from business owners. Thank you for creating a movement in the business owners community and not being afraid of what people will say about you as a business owner because you share your mental health journey.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. To that. I love that.
So don't the mental health stigma is bullshit.
Yeah.
It is bullshit. And I will tell you that every single day. Find your tribe. Find the people who are going to accept you for who you are. They allow you to be unapologetically who you are. Be that. Stop apologizing for who you are as a person.
I have a shirt that.
Stop. Well, I am unapologetically Heather, and this is the personal brand that I run off of because, again, as a business owner, this has unfortunately been a thing that I struggled with for the first year and a half, 2 years of being in business, is that I always heard the same thing. Every single person I talked to, don't put your personal business online. Don't tell people about your mental health issues because they won't trust you anymore. Bullshit. Bullshit.
Yeah.
Bullshit. Just like I don't have to wear a three-piece suit and walk into a room to be respected.
Correct.
I wear my leggings and my tennis shoes and my t-shirts. And guess what? I still know more insurance than half the damn people in that room.
Yeah.
So there's that.
I love that. No, I love that. And I like that you say that too, because story sharing and like really getting into that, like what, you have a podcast too, which I want to talk about, but like what we're sharing right now, there's a lot of people out there that do keep it a secret because I think we're moving into a place of where more people want to share their stories. So then there's more of a tribe. You don't feel alone. You feel seen and heard, which is what the movement we're working towards. But we came from a don't ask, don't tell, and behind closed doors, you don't know, right? And so from that through to what we're trying to do, there's a lot of judgment and things of people that aren't in the space. But I think once you free yourself and open up to that, to share your story and be honest and true to yourself, like you said, one door closes and 20 more open. Like it's a whole different world of meeting people online or in person and having another tribe, and then just being able to be honest with yourself to do all of that is a whole shift within you and with, others.
Yeah. And I think you're right that, both of those things exist. there are people out there who are really judgmental, and we don't share the things about our mental health because we are afraid of being judged. And we know the people who are in those rooms. But, and there is also that self-doubt in us that tells us that we can't share the most vulnerable parts of our lives because people will judge us. And that's not always the case. And I would challenge those people who overthink the situations and overthink the rooms that they're in. Listen, if it's not a good fit for you, you're gonna know.
Yeah.
The universe will send you signs that you are not supposed to be there. And when it does, you leave.
Yeah.
It's not hard. We have the ability to make these choices. That's what makes living in America great. You can do whatever the hell you want to do. Legal, I hope, but
Yeah.
you still have the ability to do whatever you want to. We live in a land and in a country that other countries dream of living here to make decisions on their own. So I would say that if you're in that space where you aren't sharing your mental health journey and you are struggling in silence, stop. You are never going to know if these people are really your people, if this is really your tribe, unless you venture out to be vulnerable with these people.
Yeah.
And if you don't want to be vulnerable with them, my inbox is always open, always. And I will listen to you. I will cry with you. Girl, I got some shit I could cry about right now. I save those tears for when somebody needs to cry. I will cry with you, but I also will turn on the coffee pot and we can sit on my front porch and I will listen to whatever it is you have to say. There is someone out there who will not allow you to suffer in silence. You don't have to anymore.
No, no, you don't. That's so powerful. That's so good that you said that because you don't. You don't. There are so many people out there. You just have to notice the things, notice what the universe is telling you, walk through the door, take action. You can feel it. It's in your body. It's not,
Yeah.
like up here can get messy, but you can feel it in your body if it is right for you or if it
Oh
isn't.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. You mentioned unapologetically Heather. So I want to get into this a little bit. So how we met was in the podcasting world. Can you share a little bit about what your podcast is about and what you talk about there? So then if people want to hear more of you or they want more of you in their life, they know where they can find you.
Yeah. So unapologetically Heather was born in 2022. And it just like full send launched at the beginning of this year. The podcast is called Raw and Rising, and it's called Raw and Rising because we invite entrepreneurs and business owners on to share real and raw stories about their journey in life, and they can share as little or as much as they would like to about their stories. That's the great thing. They're your stories. You tell them how you want. So the thing that's different about our podcast, which is different from most, is that we don't edit any of the podcast. So if there's bloopers, if somebody messes up, if we laugh, if we cry, it's all out there for everybody. And so I do caution people, whenever they fill out application to be on Raw and Rising, that listen, this podcast is unfiltered. It is raw, and it's about rising with other entrepreneurs that are not afraid to be a part of this movement, because that's exactly what it is. It is a movement. There are enough of us out there. We just have to keep going, and we have to keep sharing our stories and encouraging other people to do that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so true. I love that. How would somebody find you if they did want to reach out to you and laugh or cry or inbox or listen to your podcast?
So I'm on TikTok, I'm on Instagram, and I'm on Facebook. Um, and all of those are unapologetically Heather. And then my website is unapologeticallyheather.net. And the podcast is Raw and Raising. So you can search that on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or YouTube. And it's on all of them.
I love all of that. You have shared so many things today and so many gems that we talked about. I cannot wait to hear how it spoke to others and how many people enjoyed this episode. I always like to ask my guests that come on because we all have our own unique stories and everything. What is your superpower?
That's a good question. Damn it, why'd you put me on the spot? Um, my superpower is resiliency, for
Love
sure.
it. Yeah.
Because in everything I've been through in my life, somehow that superpower of bouncing back has always been in the forefront. And that's not by accident.
Yeah. That's a good one. I like that one. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing all of this goodness and chatting with me today and coming on the podcast. And I will put links in the show notes so it's a quick click and easy way to find you and chit chat with you. And yeah, thank you so much for being here with me today.
Thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it. We'll have to catch up later.
For sure. For sure. Thank you for listening to today's episode. I hope you enjoyed the conversation, learned something new, or got some gems to take away that will boost your week. I release a new episode each week, so make sure to click that follow button to not miss what is coming next. If you love the show or want to share a story, send me a quick message. I love hearing from listeners. If you know someone who needs this episode in their life, go ahead and share it with them. I'm sure they would love you for it. If you are looking to connect more, check out the show notes for all the social links, my website. I would love to hear how this episode helped you and what you loved about it. If there's a topic you want to hear about, send that too. All right, ladies, now is the time to release your inner power. If you're ready to break free from burnout and create a life that actually feels good, I've got you covered. You can work with me in a few ways. Join my monthly membership for ongoing support, dive into my workshops for quick breakthroughs, book coaching sessions for personalized guidance, or go all in with my Revive and Recharge Your Life coaching program to build a foundation for lasting change. No matter where you are on your journey, there is a path for you, my friend. Let's get started. DM me or check the link in the show notes to get more information.